Guys, this is Alex. You probably already know that, but my goal is to reach out to those of you that don't know who I am and share my story. And just to let it be known, I had cancer and I beat it. And if I could beat it, you could beat it. So here's my story. All right. So uh, July of last year, 2017, um, I was traveling from Las Vegas to Albuquerque, New Mexico. As I was walking through the airport, I noticed I was kind of walking kind of weird, kind of like a had like a penguin. I had like a little wobble to me. Um, there was some discomfort coming from my testicle area, and it was causing me to have that wobble. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. Should I wonder if I should get that checked out? Like maybe give it a day or two. But anyways, I traveled to Albuquerque, and when I get there, I use the bathroom in my hotel room, and there is blood in my urine. So I'm like, oh great, like now I have a urinary tract infection or something. So I'm like, I should definitely get this checked out, like nip in the butt, like right now, like before my week even starts, get on some antibiotics or something. So I Google urgent care near me, and there was one within walking distance. So I go there and make me pee in a cup, and they're like, and they did a physical on me because I'm like I have something wrong down there too. So they did a physical, and they're like, okay, your testicle is a little swollen, and you have blood in your urine. So basically, they're like, there's no way that we could see inside your testicle. There's no machines that we have here. So they told me to go to the emergency room. So I go to the emergency room 12 hours later, because you know how the emergency room is. They did an ultrasound on me, and the results came back. Yes, it is swollen, and it could be some sort of infection causing it. They did some swab testing on me because they thought it was like maybe possibly an STD, or something of that effect, some kind of infection, right? So that's what they're thinking. They're like, you need to go to your primary care physician and follow up with them and see what they say. So I fly back home to Vegas and go see my PCP. Well, I call them to set an appointment, and they're like, oh, we no longer accept your insurance. So I'm like, just great. I call my insurance. I'm like, okay, I gotta get another PCP. So long story short, I get one, call them, and they're like, we have an appointment a month from now. And if you're anywhere like Vegas, generally your primary care physician could fit you in sometime 2-3 months into the near future, right? So that's usually how it goes. So to get it like a month later was almost like hitting the lottery. Like that's absolutely amazing. Um, medical, the medical field is kind of a joke out here. But anyways, um, I go see my PCP, and he's like, okay, there's definitely a problem. I got to refer you to a urologist. So I go to a urologist like giving me a physical, and he's like, this is serious, and I know you don't want to probably hear this right now, but I'm gonna be blunt with you. It could be, um, it could be an infection, but I think the size and everything of it, because at this point it was pretty much like 3 inches in diameter, or not 3 inches. I'm sorry. Well, actually, yeah, it was 3 inches in diameter, but something of that effect. It was like the size of an apricot. Not quite as big as a golf ball, but it was close. Um, he's like, we got to take this thing out. We got to take it out and then diagnose it and see what it is. So um, they perform an orchiectomy, which is removal of your testicle. And they sent the testicle to the lab, and I had to wait, for a couple days. That's definitely a really hard time is when you're waiting for results. Uh, I received a call from the doctor on September 20th of last year, 2017, and he told me I had DLBCL. And I'm like, that wasn't on the list of things. And he explained to me that it stands for diffuse large B cell lymphoma, which is cancer of the lymphatic system. So, uh, yeah, I was diagnosed with cancer. What do you do when that happens? That was definitely a hard day. That was a really hard day for me and my family. Um, everything from that up to that point was going really well, financially, mentally, just I couldn't be in a happier place. You know, I was doing really well. Those of you that know me know I've been traveling a lot lately, doing a lot of great things with my family. And it's just I've been extremely happy. And then boom, you get slapped in the face with, oh, by the way, you have cancer. Oh man, that's tough. That's tough news. So what do you do? What do you do when you get diagnosed with cancer? Well, what I did was I cried a lot. Like the first week was just like, why? Why did this happen to me? Like, why now? I've always been a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, but I couldn't figure out like what did I do? Like, I've been doing really well. I've been treating people well. I've been respectful. Like just like uh I've been just living my life, taking care of my family. I'm not involved with any problems or with the law or with anything. I'm just living my life being a family man, like why did this happen to me? And just crying. I went through that stage, it's really hard to get that diagnosis, and I still have my good days and bad days, but you kind of have to go through that. And then I guess you could say the second stage for me was I researched as much as I possibly could. Like 3 weeks straight of nonstop research. Like literally, I could not put my phone down. I could not stop being in front of my laptop. Like just continuously doing research on what it was that I had. My urologist couldn't really tell me much because he didn't really know about the LBCL. He knew about testicular cancer, which would have been, honestly better than, I mean, it's not good to have cancer, period, but if you're going to have a form of cancer in your testicle, testicular cancer is, pretty much 98, 99% curable just by surgery if you take it out when it's stage one. I really wish that's what I had, but you know, God had other plans for me. So I have had DLBCL, and I research everything. And that's one thing that they tell you not to do research, because the research that you're going to do online is old news, right? I mean, the studies that have been done on my particular disease um, were the statistics were like 10 years old or older. Like that doesn't even apply to me now because of all the new medicine and all the new technology and advancements and all this other stuff and research. Like it doesn't even apply to me or anybody that has any form of cancer. Like doing research can't do you really that any good, you know? It could just worry you and stress you out even more. So that's kind of like rule number one is, you know, don't do research. But I'm gonna be 100% with you guys right now. I'm so glad that I did research and I went through that time and I educated myself on what type of disease I had and what I was up against. I think it really helped me out a lot because it was a rare disease, you know. I mean, if it was more common, like testicular cancer or something of that nature, I probably would have just, well, I probably still would have did research, honestly. Those that know me and have uh, been by me for a while now, they'll know. They know that I'm what's called a sea urchin, and a sea urchin stays in the bottom of the ocean, right? And they analyze everything that happens above. The sharks swimming by, the whales swimming by, you know, just everything. They're analytical, very analytical. That's me to a T. So shout out to all my people out on the road, you know, the road warriors. So shout out to you guys. But anyways, I'm a sea urchin, so I'm very analytical. So I would research regardless of what cancer I had or whatever it was I had, I would have researched. But again, maybe that isn't the right thing for you to do if you have the cancer or some type of disease. Maybe you shouldn't can't do research. I don't know. It helped me out a lot because I'm teaching the doctors at this point. Like my urologist, like he doesn't even know the terminologies I'm even using. Like I'm like, well, I've heard about some kind of treatment called methotrexate and all this other stuff, and he's like, you're talking a language I don't even know. And this is a doctor that went to school and has 20 plus years of experience. Like for him to not to know what I have definitely worried me. I'm not gonna lie. So I felt like I had to educate myself, and he referred me to my oncologist, and I went to go visit him, and he was like, the first thing you got to do when you're diagnosed with cancer is they got to figure out what stage it's in, like how bad is it basically. So that tells them what type of plan that they need to put you on, what type of treatment plan, so we could beat this, right? So you got to know where it's at, what stage it's in, you know, whatever. So he's like, all right, we need to do several tests on you. We need to do um, the MRI. We got to do a CAT scan. We got to do a PET scan. We got to do a Muga scan. We got to do a bone marrow biopsy. You know, like I didn't know what half of this stuff was. I know what a CAT scan is. I'm like, what is a PET scan? Like, why are we scanning my pet? Like, what does he have to do with this or she? Because I have a girl dog. But I'm like, what is a PET scan? Like, what the? So, um, I didn't even know what a bone marrow biopsy was either. You know, I didn't know none of that. So my analytical mind, I'm like researching all that stuff. I'm like, what is a bone marrow biopsy? I'm watching videos on this stuff. I'm watching videos of Muga scans and all this other stuff. But just to kind of dumb it down for everybody, um, I'll start with a CAT scan because that's common. Everyone knows what a CAT scan is. You know, you can go get a CAT scan of your abdomen or your chest or you know any part of your body. It's just an X-ray basically that lets us see the insides of your body. A PET scan is kind of the same thing, but it's a full body scan, and they inject you with a tracer, and it basically takes pictures of your inside, and it shows like metabolic areas. So the stuff they inject you with is like a sugar, and if there's cancer in your body, that sugar they attack that sugar, and it takes pictures of that those areas, so it could tell. So when you're looking at it, it could tell where the cancer has spread, and that's how they die. That's how they diagnose you in stages. So that's a PET scan. A Muga scan is a scan of your heart, and that lets them know how healthy your heart is because they're about to put you through chemotherapy and all this stuff. They want to know, can your heart take it, right? Like, can we put him through this treatment plan? And I had to go through an MRI. You're thinking like you have cancer in your testicle. Why do you have to do an MRI? Well, with my particular type of cancer, it has been known to metastasize into the brain. So they want to make sure that everything is good in there. So MRI. Now, last one is a bone marrow biopsy. And I've heard the term before, but I never really knew exactly what it was. And I hope no one has to go through that ever. And if you are going through that, it sucks, man. But I went through it. Fear of the unknown. Let's just put it that way. I didn't know what they were going to do, and when I saw it happen before my eyes, like it was just wow. So let me explain a little bit. I mean, I went through it. It wasn't There was a little bit of pain, but it wasn't bad. It's just like I said, fear of the unknown. Again, if I went through it, you could go through it. I'm by no means am I like I could tolerate pain, like I feel pain, like so I'm scared like everyone else, in a sense, but I was definitely freaked out because I didn't know what it was. But anyways, bone marrow biopsy is when they go into your bone and they take out marrow and then they test that marrow and see if there's any cancer cells in there. That's a long story short. So let me tell you the story about that because everything else is kind of self-explanatory. But I went into a room, laid on my stomach, my back was exposed, and the doctor basically took a chisel and a hammer and they put it in my back and they started hammering into my bone. Yes, that's right. Now, there is a couple of other techniques that you could utilize. There's one that you could stick a screwdriver into your back and go back and forth with it until it pierces the bone. There's another way too, but honestly, I don't want to say anymore. Just know that they have to go into the bone. It's like the iliac crest, which is a bone right here it's like part of your butt bone. And they go into it, they kind of drill into it or they hammer into it or however they get into it. And then they aspirate bone marrow. And they take that bone marrow and analyze it basically. So just to kind of break down about lymphoma here for a second, because I went through all the testing to figure out my staging. So this is how the staging works for lymphoma. So your diaphragm, right? You have your diaphragm. Well, anything below your diaphragm, in my case, I had the lymph node. Oh, by the way, I had a lymph node that came up in my CAT scan that was enlarged. So they were thinking cancer. So when they did the PET scan, there was some activity in there. So they're like, okay, you have cancer in your lymph node. So at that point, I'm stage 2. Okay, so and the reason why I'm stage 2, well, let's just say if it was in my testicle, that's just stage 1. I have stage 1 lymphoma. It's in my testicle. Well, if it's spread from my testicle to anywhere below the diaphragm, then stage 2. Now, if I had it in my testicle and it spread above my diaphragm, that's stage 3. If it's in my bone marrow or in my brain or somewhere like crazy, like my heart or something like that, stage 4, like automatically. Well, just so you know, lymphoma is highly treatable no matter what stage it is. Like when you hear stage 4, you're like, oh, you're done. Like most cancer stage 4 is it's really serious. Like, but you could still beat it in stage 4. I've seen success stories through my research on different cancers at stage 4 is still beatable, but it's going to be a rough ride. But with lymphoma, it's a little bit different. Stage 4 is just as treatable as stage 1, but it's more likely to come back at stage 4. So not more, I shouldn't say that, but you could still beat it. Lymphoma is a beatable cancer, right? So I think the statistics are 2 out of 3 people that are diagnosed with lymphoma uh, are treated and go into full remission, and over 50% of those end up being cured. So that's kind of like the statistics with it. But statistics don't really mean anything, honestly. Like, you could look up all the research and see all the statistics. My doctor told me something I thought was pretty clever, but just like, you're not a don't pay attention to a statistic unless you are a statistic, and I'm not a statistic, so, and I don't want to be. So, anyways, it went something like that, but I thought that was pretty cool. Anyways, uh, so stage 2 is what I was diagnosed with. So my oncologist was like, you need to have 4 treatments of R-CHOP. You need to have 3 weeks of radiotherapy. Well, he didn't really know because he had to refer me to radiologist, or whatever, radiotherapist, oncologist, or whatever you call them. You have to go see him, and he'll tell you exactly how many treatments. But we've seen up to 3 weeks before, 15 days, and you should be good after that. Well, through my research, and this is why I'm glad I researched, because through my research I found support groups. I found great information. I found survivors. That's what I researched. There's a lot of things you could research, and you could get the wrong information very easily. But what I wanted to research was who survived what I have, who survived it, and what did they do to survive it? Like, what kind of plan did they go through? Or if did they even go through a plan? Like, what exactly did they do? That's one of the biggest things that I could tell anybody is, if you want to be successful, follow in the footsteps of somebody that's already done it, right? So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to find somebody successful in beating this and follow in their footsteps. So I met several people that beat it. 10-year survivor, 5-year survivor, 4-year survivor, and I'm still in contact with them to this day. We through emails and stuff like that. But I found out what their treatment plan was, and their treatment plan consisted of 3 different things, and that was chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and methotrexate through my spine. So I forgot what they call that. There's like a term for that, but I forgot what it's called. This oncologist that I had didn't feel the need to do the methotrexate. He's like, you just need to do 4 treatments of chemo, or R-CHOP, which is Rituxan, plus CHOP, which is been pretty much, CHOP has been the standard treatment for what I have for many, many years, and they just added Rituxan to it, which is kind of like a miracle drug, and it's curing people. So 4 treatments of that, and also radiotherapy. They didn't mention anything about the methotrexate. And I'm like, wait a minute here. The people that I've met that have survived this have done methotrexate. Why don't you think I need to do that? And he didn't really have an answer for me. He didn't really know. So because of that, I got a second opinion. And I met this other oncologist, and I transferred all the paperwork over, all the test results, everything, and I didn't tell him. I told him that I saw another oncologist, and I'm getting a second opinion through you, but he didn't. I didn't tell him anything, like, as far as the treatment plan was concerned or any of that. He didn't really ask. He just kind of went right into it. He was like, okay, well, based off of all your test results and everything like that, this is what I think needs to be done. You need to have 4 treatments of R-CHOP. I'm like, okay, that's what the other doctor said. And you need radiotherapy, possibly 15 days. I'm like, okay, that's what the other oncologist said. So this is adding up. And you also need spinal injections of methotrexate. And I'm like, okay, now he wants me to go through what the survivors I know went through. So I felt like he knew a little bit more than the oncologist. Like he was more informative and more he knew like how like what needed to be done. So I went with him. And I didn't want to go through method who wants to go through spinal injections? Like that doesn't even sound right, you know? Like who wants to do that unless you're about to have a baby, you know? Give me a give me a give me one of those things in the back, you know, so I don't feel anything. I get that, but who wants to go through a spinal tap, you know? But that's what it took for these survivors. So I knew that's what needed to be done. I just felt it, you know, and I trusted everything this other doctor had to say. He was more informative. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He was straight up and you know blunt with me, and I respected that, you know, because this isn't something to be messed around with. The other doctor was like, oh, you know, it's gonna be all right. Just do this and you're gonna be fine. You know, you're gonna be all right. Which I, you know, understand because you want to be positive too. So it's not like I'm saying he was bad, but I want to do everything I possibly can to beat it. I don't want to wait or not wait. I don't want to be 2 years down the line and then it comes back in my spinal area, and I'm like, man, I really should have got that methotrexate. You know, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. You know, I don't. I want no doubt. I want to be like I did everything I can now to beat it, so it doesn't come back. That was my mindset. You know, do everything I can to beat it, and that's what I did. So um, I went through 4 treatments of chemotherapy. I went through 15 days of radiotherapy, and I had 4 spinal injections. Um, and those spinal injections probably the worst procedure I had to go throughout the whole process, worse than the bone marrow biopsy. Chemotherapy, you know, they asked me if I wanted a port, and a port is something they install into your body. So you know when you go get chemotherapy, they can either inject an IV into your arm and push through all these medications, or they can install a port and then they can just stick the port. So it's a lot easier. So I chose to go with a port. Um, the drugs that I had are chopped. There was a couple of drugs in there. One called vincristine, and another one called di- uh, rubicin. Some with a D, but they call it the Red Devil because it's red, right? So um, just to kind of freak you guys out here for a second, but if they inject vincristine or the Red Devil into your veins, and there just so happens to it leaks, like it wasn't a good IV they put in you, it could basically burn your skin. It could like literally you'll have a hole in your skin from where it leaked, and it's like acid burning through your skin basically. So they said the best thing to do is to get a port, and if you put a port in there, not only is that makes it less for you to get an infection, but also it makes it easier to administer the medicine. So I'm like, all right, well, let's just do the port. So the port was a crazy procedure. um, Basically they installed it right here. So I don't know if you could see it, but there's a scar right here. They cut me open and they put a port in here, and there was a catheter that went up under my clavicle and back down into my jugular vein, and they just basically poked me into my port, and that's how the medicine came in. The jugular vein is like a really strong vein, and there's like no like a really low risk of infection, and it's a lot easier to administer. So I'm like, let's roll, let's do it. Well, kind of like a quick story with that, it ended up getting infected, and on my second uh, after my second chemotherapy, they looked at it, and it basically created like this little blister. And I slept one night. It was in pain. I slept one night and it bursted open, and I woke up. My whole shirt was covered in blood, and there was pus everywhere because the infection, it ruptured, but it went out of my body, not in my body, which was good, you know. But at the same time, I had an infection that entered my bloodstream, so it was pretty much sepsis. Well, there's another term that they used. It didn't quite make it to sepsis. It didn't affect my organs. I caught it like extremely early. Um, but anyways, they had to take out my port, and I had to get antibiotics every day, every single day for 3 weeks straight, like some really hardcore antibiotics. And it was during Christmas and New Year's, and I had plans to go to California, you know, because I'm like, I gotta get out of here, you know. I've been going crazy just staying at home. But basically, they uh, they administered antibiotics every day, even on Christmas Day, even on New Year's Day. I had to go in and get antibiotics administered through IV, right? So they took that out. They sewed me back up. It's healed now, but I don't have a port there anymore. Um, Generally, they like to keep your port in for a couple of years, you know, just in case they have to treat you again in the future, you know. But they took it out. So, anyways, going back to the treatment, I continued my treatment plan. I did the 4 chops, and then I was referred to radiotherapist or radiology oncologist, and they basically said I needed 15 days of radiation, and that was a crazy experience too. Like, I felt absolutely no pain through my sessions. My sessions lasted. They basically shot radiation into my testicle and also into my lymph node. And the whole process maybe took 20 minutes. I was in and out quick. Like, I would lay down in an uncomfortable position, and then boom, boom, I'm out. 15 days straight. Well, Monday through Friday, had weekends off. And then I started getting like a sunburn effect and like a bruise in my testicle area um, that lasted probably a good couple weeks before it healed. But that was really the only side effects I had from that. The side effects from the chemotherapy, you know, I had headaches, and, um, you know, I felt like lethargic, you know. Uh, my side effects were kind of minimal. Yeah, I did feel nauseous here and there, but they give you good medication for that. And honestly, what really helped me a lot with uh, my nausea was CBD oil. You know, actually, right here, um, I have CBD infused water that I drink now. Also have CBD in a tincture, uh, CBD in a smoking pen. I have CBD everywhere, you know. But this CBD right here really helped me. This water right here. Shout out real quick to my good friend Chris. Thanks for hooking me up with this, man. It really helped me out with the nausea. But the radiation also gave me nausea a little bit too, because they put in radiation to my stomach, which was where the lymph node was. So I got a little bit nauseous from that. Um, CBD helped me with the nausea and also sleeping. You know, that definitely helped out. Um, oh, one thing I forgot to mention too during this whole process, um, I also went on a diet. I stopped eating sugar. I stopped. I stopped eating flour, anything with flour, like bread, any kind of like carbs like that. I ate good carbs though, like from salads and uh, you know, coconut oil and avocados and stuff like that. You know, but I went on a really big diet. I went on a cleanse thanks to my other friend, Joe De Lorenzo. Shout out to you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I went on a diet. I lost like 40 pounds. Like, I want to say a good 25, 30 pounds were attributed to my diet. And then I maybe lost 10, 15 pounds through the chemotherapy treatment. Um, but all in all, I maintained a pretty healthy weight because of the diet, and I wish I was able to exercise, but the spinal taps, surgeries, and all that stuff. It was miserable. I couldn't even like. Some days I was in pain and I just had to stay in bed. But it's always good to exercise and eat right. But CBD oil helped me, and my diet really helped me. I think those are all attributing factors, along with my chemotherapy, my radiation, um, and unfortunately the spinal taps. I had 4 of those, are attributed to my success of how I beat this thing. Because January, um, the doctor told me I was in full remission after my PET scan, and the fight doesn't stop there though, because you still have to eat right, you still have to exercise, because it could come back, but you can't live your life thinking, oh, it could come back, or you could die, or whatever, because guess what? Even if you don't have cancer, you could still die tomorrow. I could, anybody could, nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow, so you can't just live your life like, oh man, like the cancer could come back. Like, I could get hit by a car tomorrow. Like, just live your life, enjoy each day at a time, wake up, go outside, take a breath, and realize that you're alive, and then enjoy that day as the moment comes. Like, only, you know, seize that moment. Like, you've been told that your whole life, you know, um, just live each day, take it day by day. Anyways, that's the biggest advice I could give you. And it's really hard um, to go through this. And I think one of the one of the things that really helped me as well, to go through this, is not only did I find really great support groups, um, but also I told my my closest friends and family. I told my sisters, my brother, my parents, and I could see somebody getting diagnosed with cancer, like for my mom, for an instance. Like, even though she got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and then 2 weeks later she passed away. Well, something tells me that she went to the doctors previously, maybe a year or 2 years down the line, before she died, and was told that she possibly had cancer, and she didn't take care of it, and she just let it go. And then they finally diagnosed her and she died. But I feel like she held it from us. She didn't tell us. So she was going through that battle by herself. And if it wasn't for my support group, and if it wasn't for my wife and my parents and my sisters, and my close friends that stood by my side, that I told, and that's hard. It's hard because I was getting married before all this even. I was getting married October 20th, 2017, and I got diagnosed with cancer in September. And like, my best man, my friends, like, I had 4 people on my wedding, really good friends of mine. And how do you choose a best man? How do you do that? Like, all 4 of them are really close friends of mine. I call them my brothers. They're my brothers. If I could have an untraditional wedding, I would make them all 4 my best man, but I had to pick one. Um, but the bottom line is, we're having a bachelor party that they're applying for me too. And at the same time, I'm going through bone marrow biopsies. So I'm like, I have to tell them what's going on. I have to, because I can't drink. I quit everything cold turkey. I stopped drinking. I stopped doing anything. Uh, you know, I do smoke, or I did smoke marijuana, but I quit. I quit that. I quit drinking. I quit doing anything bad for your body. I used to vape, nicotine. I quit vaping. I threw my vape right in the trash. Like, who knows if that's what happened? But I threw it in the trash. I quit everything cold turkey, and I called my friend Joe. I'm like, I need to go on a diet right now. I need apple cider vinegar. I need, you know, dark grief, dark leafy greens. I need all this. I need whatever you got, man. Give it to me. And I went on it as soon as possible. But the thing is, he's like, why? What's going on? So I had to tell him I had cancer too. And he's a really good friend of mine as well. So I told these people, and they stood by my side the whole time. And if it wasn't for them, and if it wasn't for, well, I could tell you my biggest motivator. My biggest motivator is right here. That's my biggest motivator. That's my kids right there. That's when they were younger. But if it wasn't for my kids, it wasn't for my wife, if it wasn't for my good friends, if it wasn't for my brothers, if it wasn't for my sisters, I wouldn't. I would be going through this by myself. And they kept me focused. They kept me. They a constant reminder of why I want to live. That's why I'm here making this video today. Is because of my support group. I love you guys. You know, if it wasn't for you, I don't know. If it wasn't for you guys, it wasn't for my son and daughter and my wife, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you guys right now on the real. So my biggest advice after everything that I've been through is tell people about what you're going through so you don't have to go through it by yourself and you can have their support through this. Um, do research, right? But do the right research. Research people that survived it and how they survived it. Follow success, right? Don't research how, like, people dying, and also that's just going to make you sad. That's going to make you, you know, miserable. Why would you want to put yourself through that when you already have something serious going on with your body? So do the right research. Don't just do research, do the right research. Tell people, have a great support group, right? Take it day by day. You know, you can't predict the future regardless if you have cancer or not, you know. And this is probably the one of the biggest things too, is trust your doctors, because I went through a phase where I was just in denial. I'm like, I cannot believe this is happening to me. You guys are wrong. I went through three different I sent my testicle to three different labs because I'm like, I don't have cancer. This can't be real. So I got three different opinions, you know, like three, not just one, but I got, you know, I didn't just get one opinion. I got not just two, I got three, you know. So I was in denial big time, and that research phase that I went through was just ridiculous. But again, research the right type of research, not the wrong type of research. But trust your doctors. Um, go with your gut instinct too. You know, if you feel this oncologist isn't right for you, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You know, I recommend getting a second opinion on everything. Yeah, pretty much everything. Well, majority of the time. Like, there's certain things that I would just, like, the opportunity is too good, you got to jump on it, you know. But there's some things that you have to get a second opinion on, and if your life's involved, I think that's a good reason to get a second opinion, you know, because there's been wrong diagnosis in the past, and you just never know. Um, you know, even on an oncologist, like, not just the lab results, but on an oncologist. If anything you learn from this, get a second opinion on the oncologist and go with the best one that you feel that knows what they're talking about more. Don't just go with the first one that you see. You know, if you're faced with something really aggressive, you know, you could still talk to your insurance and get an oncologist and get an appointment with them, like, literally the same week, you know. But you want to get a second opinion. But yeah, that's the biggest thing I could tell you guys. Um, but yeah, I mean, I beat it. You know, I went through all these things, um, as far as getting testing, the chemotherapy, the radiotherapy, and it sucks. But if I could do it, you could do it, and if I could beat it, you could beat it. So you just got to stay strong, stay focused, have a great support group, and ask the right questions. So hopefully, if you're watching this and you have cancer, or if you know somebody that has cancer, and if you have any questions that you want to ask me or anything like that, you could send me a private message, call me if you have my number, whatever. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody and be that light, because I wish I had somebody when I was going through the same thing I was going through. It would have, well, actually, I had two other people that I knew that had cancer. One going through it that is looking really good right now, and I had another one that beat it and has been 4 years in remission. So those are close personal uh, friends of mine that have been going through it, and so they did help me. But that's so important to have that. Don't go through this by yourself. All right, so let me know if you guys have any questions or anything. Um, I'm blessed to be here, happy to be here, and I just want to be there for anybody else that is going through this. So God bless.